where gun culture meets the gospel. This is Armed Lutheran Radio.
Hey folks, welcome to the April Reformation Gun Club online happy hour. It's a BYOB special. We are drinking away our sorrows and commiserating, talking about what are we doing to get through this craziness that is another week of the coronavirus lockdown. Thank you for joining us. T-shirt tonight. Let me get this banner out of the way. T-shirt tonight. The new Armed Lutheran T-shirt can be found at armedlutheran.us/t-shirts for those who are interested. All right, let's get to it. What are you guys doing to survive the lockdowns? It's here in Texas. They finally decided that there's just no point in having school anymore. So school is canceled for the rest of the year, or at least going back. The academic year is canceled. Kids will not be going back to the physical classrooms for the rest of the year. We'll be doing online school. The governor finally announced that business will start to get back to normal, whatever normal is, although it's not really normal. Businesses can start to go back to work, but only if you have some way to take online orders and you can deliver your goods at the curb. So if you're not capable of doing that, you're screwed. You're still out of business. A number of businesses are starting to buck the trend and have basically said, "Screw you, we're going back to work anyway." There was a hair salon in Dallas, Salon a la Mode, who decided that they were going to go ahead and go back to work because they're still paying rent and they're still paying utilities. They can't afford to be out of work any longer. And to heck with Clay Jenkins, they decided to go back to work anyway. I think they opened up yesterday, and police stopped by and basically said, "Hey, just be safe, wear masks." Of course, Clay Jenkins's office sent them a cease and desist letter and a fine for $1,000. And they basically sent the letter off to their attorneys and then went back to work again today. So it'll be interesting to see how this progresses. Hope things are improving where you are, and hopefully things start to get back to normal before long. Whatever you're doing, here's to your health. Little alcohol to take care of knock out the coronavirus. Hey, Robert, how are you? Robert Laird is with us from Everett, Washington. Good to have you here, Robert. We're going to, whoever shows up tonight, we're just going to talk about what we're doing to get through this. Hey, the pistol packing Padre is with us, and it looks like he may be in his mobile studio. What on?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you and see you. And what on earth have you done?
Hold on, I'll answer that question in just a minute. I'm dropping off a DVD.
All right, we'll pop him back into the live stream here in just a moment. Oh my goodness, clean shaven. He looks 20 years younger. So we're going to go through and we're going to talk about just, what are you doing and to get through while you're locked down in your homes? What have you done to sort of pass the time? This is an opportunity for a lot of people to catch up on some reading, to catch up on some TV shows and some movies and some games and family activities. So let's share some ideas and let's talk about the kinds of things that we're doing. And maybe some people will get some cool ideas for things they hadn't thought of. And if you happen to have a nice, cool adult beverage, be sure to partake. All right, let's see. Let me send out an invite to members of the Reformation Gun Club and open that up to the top tier. And then if in a few minutes, if they don't show, we'll start extending that further. And the pastor is back in his vehicle and looks like he is doing a 4-point turn of some sort. Looks like you're doing a driver's ed test. What are you?
Right now, I'm driving in the literal middle of nowhere. So
Now this is what you were talking about you've talked about on the show for a couple of weeks. You are actually a lot more busy now than before all of this stuff broke out, because in addition to doing the service on Sunday and your vacancy pastor services, you're now recording your services so that and burning them to DVD so that you can deliver them to shut-ins, to those who don't have internet service.
yeah, so I'm actually not doing any public worship services right now because we're right next door to a county that has been hit pretty hard for a small rural county. But yeah, I have a total of, I think, 12 places to drop off DVDs, and so far I've driven. I'm about not even a quarter of the way into my deliveries, and I've driven 29 miles so far. So,
holy cow! Well, you won't be partaking in the happy hour tonight.
29 miles. No. I'd love to be sitting with a glass of whiskey right now, but wouldn't be safe under these circumstances.
Definitely not. Well, we'll tip one back for you, and you'll be able to have one when you get home safe and sound. And so we're what we thought we'd do tonight is just sort of share what whoever shows up, we'll just sort of share what everybody's been doing to sort of pass the time, aside from running around delivering DVDs, obviously. What has everybody been doing to get through all of this stuff, and some of the obvious things, and maybe give some listeners or viewers some ideas, some of the things that they maybe hadn't thought of. And one of the obvious, I guess the place to start obviously would be books. And a shameless plug, obviously, right off the top, if I can figure out where the camera is when we do the split screen, is the Armed Lutheran Radio books, which you can find at armedlutheran.us/books. But I have been reading an absolute Troy ton of stuff lately. How about you, Pastor?
I haven't had a whole lot of time for any additional reading. The one book that I've been working on is, I can't think of the exact title off the top of my head, but it's about the influence of the Knights Templar on the Reformation movement.
Really?
Yeah, there's I can't remember the name of the author either. He's a pretty obscure guy that his doctoral thesis was trying to draw the historical connection between the Knights Templar and Martin Luther himself.
Interesting.
Yes, not that Luther was a Templar. I mean, I'm sure some of the Calvinists that hate Luther would love it if it turned out that he was a Freemason, but
well, the church had kind of wrapped up the Templars and convicted them and put them all to death by the time they came around to trying to condemn Luther. So
yes, but there was an underground. They all went underground.
Yeah.
The Lollards was one of the groups that were derived from the Templars. Most of them went to Scotland. So when you're tipping back a glass of scotch, think of the Templars, who many of them were killed off by the Roman Catholic Church because the reason being that the Templars were not loyal to the Pope. They were loyal to the Templars, and the Pope wanted to use them as his own personal mercenary force, and well, they wouldn't do it. So he decided to declare they were all heretics and kill as many as he could.
Right, and they had a whole lot of money that the Pope really wanted to get his hands on, and what better way to do it than just to knock them out of the way? There was There's a really God, I wish I could remember the name of it. I would have put it on my stack to share tonight. I can't think of it. There's a really good book on the history of the Templars that I read not too long ago, before the pandemic. There is a series on where did I see it? There's a series on TV, and I don't remember what network produced it, but it was hosted by this guy, and it was about the history of great British castles. And he told these, so he gave you a tour of these old castles, and he told you the history of them, and went through and talked about some of the the better known stuff, but also sort of the not so well known stuff that went on behind the scenes. Throughout the history of those structures, and the people behind the building of the castles and the destruction of the castles and all of that. And that guy is actually, believe it or not, I mean, he doesn't look it. He looks like some millennial dude in skinny jeans with a leather jacket, and it just doesn't look like a serious historian. But the guy's got a PhD in history. And he's written several books, and one on the Plantagenets and one on the Templars. And I grabbed a copy of that book. It's excellent. And I wish I could think of the name of that guy's name. It is just called The Templars. If I can find it before the end of this show, I'll dig it out.
So you were asking me before I got out of the car what I've done to my face.
Yes. What on earth has happened? You're 20 years. You look 20 years younger.
My daughter was trying to compliment me, and I think she was trying to say I look 5 years younger, but she said, "Dad, it looks like you took 5 years off your life."
in a good way.
Yeah, no. I every time I put on a stinking mask to give people communion, because I'm doing private communion for folks.
Oh yeah.
And every time I do that, it completely messes up the mustache. And then tonight at supper, I'm sitting there eating fried chicken, and I was tired of munching on my mustache, so I said, "The heck with this," and ran upstairs and shaved it off.
It's hard to get the N95 mask to seal around the handlebar mustache.
And unlike the stuff up here, what's on my face will grow back. So
yes, very true. Very true. Well, I thought I would share a few things that I have. Like I said, I have just read an absolute ton of stuff lately, and I don't know where. I normally, I do a lot of reading for show prep and that sort of thing, but I used to read a lot more for fun, but I've just haven't done as much fun reading lately. And now that the one, I guess, benefit of the coronavirus pandemic and the lockdown is that I've done a ton of it, which is weird. So let's see, what have I got here? I've got, if anybody's interested in Old West history and shootouts, this is a great book. This is Dodge City, Wyatt Earp, Bat Masterson, and the Wickedest Town in the American West by Tom Clavin. Fantastic book if you're interested in the history of the Old West, particularly Dodge City or Wyatt Earp or Bat Masterson. Great stuff. Put that down over here. I burned through that one really fast. It's really fascinating reading. I had not done a whole lot. I read the story. Have you seen the Netflix show, the movie The Highwayman that had?
It's on my list. I haven't watched it yet.
Okay. That is based on the life of Frank Hamer, the guy who killed Bonnie and Clyde. And I read his autobiography, and that got me started reading some of the histories of the old lawmen. And I read a little bit about Bass Reeves, and then I got a hold of this book, and so that's where the interest in that one came from. So this is a terrific book if you're interested in Old West lawmen and the little history of the Old West. Great stuff. Let's see, we've got some comments over here. I want to grab some comments. Dan Jones. Thank you. Robert Laird looked it up for me. Dan Jones is the author of the book on the Templars. That is exactly right. I could not think of his name to save my life. Thank you, Robert. I canceled my subscription to Netflix because I just was not going to spend any money on the Obamas if I could avoid it. So I have not.
You missed out on the Tiger King.
I missed out on the Tiger King. Oh darn! But I thought I've actually been tempted to sort of do the 7-day trial just to binge a couple of things and then cancel on them. And one of the things that I've been interested in is The Witcher. I'm a long time from when I was a kid, a fan of kind of fantasy, Lord of the Rings, sort of classic fantasy stuff. So rather than mess with Netflix, I bought the Witcher series of books. Even better.
Oh, nice.
And I've burned through all 9 of them.
Oh, gosh.
They're that good. So start, if you're interested, if you don't want to do Netflix, because typically Netflix and, the movie companies are going to take the story and they're going to like totally sex it up and screw the stories up. If you want to get the original stories, start with this one. It's called The Last Wish. It introduces the character and all the backstory. I did not start with this one, which was a mistake, and none of it made sense. And so I went back and got this one. Great stuff. There's 8 or 9 books. Good stuff.
I know with Netflix, if you've got multiple credit cards, or if you have a credit card that has a service where it'll generate one-time use credit card numbers for you, I think if you continue, you might have to make a new email address on Gmail or something every time you take out a new trial.
Yep. Just create about 15 Gmail accounts and then abandon them afterwards.
That's right. Beat the man at his own game, right?
Exactly. If you do like cool TV series, especially crime dramas, if you have not seen it, or even if you have, there is a terrific series that's available free on Amazon Prime called Justified. That's been out.
Oh yeah, great show
for years. Yeah. Terrific series. The books are tremendous. Elmore Leonard's books, Writing the Rap, and Raylan, and I don't remember the third one. There are 3 that are the basis for the series. Are really very, very good. And so look for Elmore Leonard's books. Writing the Rap, I think, is the first one, and you will recognize, I think, from the pilot, there are several scenes from that book, I think, in this, or from this book in that first episode.
Nice.
Terrific. Really good stuff. Really good stuff. If you like sci-fi, and I told you I've read all kinds of stuff, I, for some reason, picked up a copy of Roadside Picnic. This was written in I want to say it was in the 80s. This guy was in the Soviet Union, or these guys, Arkady and Boris Strugatsky, are Russian brothers in the Soviet Union who wrote a series of a number of sci-fi novels. This is their best known. It's called Roadside Picnic. And it is the idea being, oddly enough, that aliens visit the Earth but don't interact with humans and leave, which I wouldn't blame them. If you go to Walmart, and I can understand why they wouldn't want to. But they leave behind a lot of weird stuff. And the governments of all the different countries where these sites are cordon off all the locations where the aliens landed and won't let people in because those sites are dangerous. And there are people called stalkers who go in and harvest stuff and sell them on the black market. That led to a kind of a cult classic movie called Stalker which I have not watched, which looks kind of weird. I think it's available free maybe on YouTube. It's in another language, so I'm not really big on subtitled foreign films. So I haven't seen it. And if I understand correctly, the cover of this particular edition is from that movie.
Okay.
But I don't know how faithfully that movie holds to the book. The book was pretty good. It was actually
probably not at all like most movies.
Yeah, my guess would be that's true. It's actually
I'll be right back with you.
All right.
I have to go pump gas.
Well, at least it's gas and not something else. Okay, so this is actually pretty good if you like sci-fi, like something that's a little bit different. Check out Roadside Picnic. It's really pretty good. Another sort of here's a good one. The Witcher is a great series, but you're absolutely correct. Lots of DNA. Yeah, I'm not surprised at all, Robert. totally not surprised. Yep. That's how they do it. There's some of that that's sort of alluded to in the books. And if you ever read what's the other one that's on HBO? Game of Thrones. I read the first couple of books from the Game of Thrones series, and compare it to the television series, and it's just nothing. They're not alike at all. They take little references or kind of suggestions of things and just blow it completely out of proportion. So that's just how Hollywood does things. So yeah. But the books are tremendous. The books are really, really good. Kevin from the Reformation Gun Club suggests Pet Loads by Ken Waters and Ken Waters' Notebook. Okay. I will make a note of that. Very cool. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate the recommendation. Let's see what else. Here's what I am currently reading. If you like sort of a dystopian post-apocalyptic storyline, try Metro 2033 or Metro 2034. These were written, Dmitry Glukovsky, another Russian author. I don't know when these were originally written, in the late 90s, maybe early 2000s. This was in 2009. The concept behind them is this is post-apocalyptic nuclear war, and it's set in post-apocalypse Moscow, and it's set in the metro of Moscow, underground. All of the people of Moscow have fled basically the only people who survived the nuclear war are the people who were in or who rushed to the subway stations, and now they are the only people left alive on Earth as far as they know. And all of the metro stations have become cities, basically. And so it's a really interesting series of stories, and it's been turned into a series of video games as well, which I will introduce, I think, maybe to one of those later. But good stuff, and hard to get a hold of. These were only translated into English in the last 5 or 6, maybe 7 years. Good stuff. Okay, let's see. Robert suggests, sounds like Master and Commander movie where they took highlights from 4 different books and crammed them into one movie. Yeah, that's that could be. Yeah. If you're not sure you're going to be able to get multiple sequels out of something, yeah, smash them all into one. It's probably the safest bet. Looks like Pastor is back from his adventure at the gas pumps.
It's a lot cheaper than it used to be, which
I know
isn't necessarily a good thing for
not
people
good.
like Aaron Israel.
$15 to fill up my SUV. Crazy. That's great for us, but I'm not able to drive anywhere.
Exactly.
It's like,
what are your gas prices right now?
$1.29.
Oh,
It's
it's $1.69 here, but that's because it's Minnesota and they're communists.
right.
They tax us for 85 cents on every gallon.
It's like I'm a teenager again. Gas is cheap, but I can't go anywhere. It's crazy. Let me send out some more invitations, see who else can join us tonight. I did not hear back from Mia or from Bill, so I'm not sure. And I know this was scheduled kind of at the last minute. It was I looked up at the calendar and it was like, holy cow, it's almost the end of May or end of April. We need to do an April live show. All right, so that kind of wraps up. Any other recommendations for books? No.
1984 is when I'm going to be reading again.
Sadly, that is, yeah. I read that not long ago, maybe a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, and I hadn't read it since college. And I just sat there the whole time I'm reading it, and I was reading it as an audiobook, and I'm listening to it, and I'm thinking, this sounds exactly like what's going on now.
Yes.
Orwell missed it by about 20 years, but he's spot on.
Interestingly enough, that is one of the few movie adaptations that is pretty consistent with the book.
Oh, now that I have not seen.
It's it's not one to watch with the kiddos around because it does include full frontal nudity, but
well, there's that. Yeah.
It's not the glamorous nudity that you see today in your average Netflix special.
Yeah, that's even worse.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I may check that out. Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, it's William Hurt is the main character in the movie.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. Might have to check that out. Well, that brings us to movies. So, what movies have you checked out since the outbreak of the pandemic? What have you been? Have you taken in any movies with your family or whiled away the time?
Well, we paid $6 to Amazon Prime to watch Call of the Wild.
Nice.
So
how was it?
It was all right.
Jumanji Call of the Wild or just Call of the Wild?
Call of the Wild.
Okay.
I think, and the movie, it's all about this dog, and the animals in the movie are for the most part all CGI. But we watched it because of the kids, and it was a good movie.
Cool.
The kids enjoyed it.
Nice.
But my wife and I, we've been binge watching Ripper Street on Netflix, and it was a BBC series. And
we'll get to TV shows in a second.
Oh, okay. We're okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's that. I want to hear about that. I haven't seen that one. I haven't seen that one in a while. Movies. We watched. Well, my my wife and my daughter watched Frozen 2, which I managed to avoid because I was doing podcast stuff. So, let's see. But we did watch Jumanji, not the latest Jumanji, but the Jumanji, not the first one with Robin Williams. We saw Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle, which was actually pretty funny, which was a pretty good movie. I think depending on the age of your kids, I would be a little cautious. Some of the language is a little bit rough. But for young teens, late elementary age kids, it's probably okay. Kevin Hart. If you don't know the story, Jumanji is a video game, and the main characters get sucked into it, and they have to save Jumanji, which is this. They basically have to win the game to get out, and they basically take on the avatars of the characters that they selected. And they had no idea, because it's like a 20-year-old, like a 1980s Atari game, and they had no idea what they were selecting when they chose the characters. So like Jack Black, or so like this hot blonde chick, when she ends up in the game, she's Jack Black.
I saw some pieces of that. I didn't watch the whole movie. I just saw some clips on YouTube.
And the cool football player, the black kid, is actually Kevin Hart, and he's just like the sidekick guy who carries around stuff for the Rock, and his weakness is cake. So if he eats cake, he explodes. So it's a funny movie. It actually turned out pretty good. I'm actually looking forward to seeing the sequel to that. We saw Aladdin with Will Smith, which was actually quite good. I was surprised. It does not measure up. Will Smith's Genie in the Bottle is not Robin Williams's level of Genie in the Bottle. Not that good, but still pretty good.
I was just discussing this with some people today, that it seems like 90% of the movies that Will Smith is in, it is the character in the movie as Will Smith.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's basically, yeah. It feels exactly like that. But he does a good job. He's very funny. He does a good job of it. And the effects are very good. I'm not sure who this Facebook user is. They said Enemy at the Gates. That is a really good movie. Enemy at the Gates. Yeah, said they watched Enemy at the Gates again yesterday. Great movie. Yes, that is a fantastic movie. Have not seen that in a while. I might have to look that one up again.
Yeah, I haven't seen that in a long time either. One movie I did just recently watch is Angel Has Fallen. And that actually was, it was on Netflix. It was, so it was basically free.
Right.
And it was actually done very, very well. There's a whole series of it, if our viewers, if they've seen any of them, but I think this was the best of the ones that they've had.
Okay.
It was a good act that doesn't cause you to spend any time thinking.
Right. Good action flick. No real. Yeah, that's okay. I can't think. What is that guy's name? The lead in that in those movies.
Gerard Butler.
Gerard Butler. Yes, Gerard Butler. I sat down. I decided to rent 1917. I've been recently fascinated with World War One. I came across a podcast series called Voices from the First World War, which is a series of, and it's not new. I don't know how I am just finding it, but a historian named Dan Snow put together this podcast for the BBC where he takes these interviews. Apparently the BBC and the Imperial War Museum back in the 80s and in the 60s interviewed veterans of the First World War for posterity, just so they didn't lose these memories. And for the first time, the BBC took all these audio files and compiled them into a podcast.
Oh, nice.
And put both collections together. And so you've got these 90-year-old guys talking about their memories from the very beginning of the war right through the biggest battles to, the sea battles, to the Middle East, to right up to armistice. And everything that happened in between. Fascinating stuff. Really, really fascinating. If you want to understand, if you think our generation had has hardships or has undergone any hardships, listen to those guys and what they went through, and you'll really appreciate what the previous generations have done before us, and what they went through to those guys didn't have any choice, and they went off and fought in a really horrific conflict for really no reason. But that's neither here nor there. I'm really fascinated with that war and the people who fought it. And so when 1917 came out, or when I heard that it was coming out, and I saw how it was being made, I thought, oh wow, that looks really cool, because they were doing so much of it in these long unedited shots, right? They weren't doing these short scripted little bites. They did really, really lengthy shots as they walked through the trenches, and the whole first, if you go on YouTube, you can see there's like a 9 or a 10-minute section of the movie that they have as a preview, and none of it's edited. It's just the camera following the guys for 10 solid minutes in the trenches, in and out of dugouts and back and forth down communications trenches, and it's staggeringly cool to watch all the stuff and the way the camera weaves its way through the crowds and as they squeeze their way in between other people. It's amazing to watch. And I decided to go ahead and rent the movie, and it is fantastic. It is a tremendous, tremendous movie. If you have a chance to sit down and rent it and watch it one night, I cannot recommend it highly enough. It is tremendous, a tremendous piece of cinematography, if nothing else.
It's one of the ones that's been on my list, and from what I understand, they wanted to make the entire movie feel like it was one uncut shot, and that they sounds like they really accomplished that goal. I'll be right back with you, okay?
All right. Pastor is out delivering. For those who are just joining us, Pastor is out delivering DVDs of his church services to members of his congregation who do not have internet service. So he's in and out of his vehicle, joining us from his mobile studio. And let me see. Send out a few more invites here and see if we can get a few more people into the show while we got a little bit more time here. We're just basically, what we're doing today is we've been going through all the different things that we've been enjoying while we're putting up with this pandemic, and sharing some ideas for those of you who are enduring this with us, which is pretty much everyone, unless you live in the 5 states who don't have any lockdowns or any stay-at-home orders. You're going through all of this with us, and so we thought we would share some ideas and get some ideas from you who are watching, to help everyone because let me tell you, I'm an introvert, and sitting at home is generally what I do, but this is getting to me. So it's been really getting on my nerves. So I thought this would be a great opportunity for us to sort of share together what it is we're doing to get through it all. Dan, great Galaxy Quest. Always fun to watch. I have not seen Galaxy Quest. All right, there's another idea I'm going to have to check out. Thank you for the recommendation. Ed, welcome. Glad you're here with us. Good to have you here. Never give up, never surrender. And what is that a quote from? Never give up, never surrender. Is that the is that the movie about Churchill? I've got to see that movie too. That's on my watch list. The Churchill movie. All right, Pastor's back in the car.
Never give up, never surrender. It's from Galaxy Quest.
Is that Galaxy Quest? Okay.
Yes.
Dang it.
That is a great. Basically,
so 2 people are recommending Galaxy Quest. How cool!
It is absolutely hilarious.
Okay.
Absolutely hilarious. It's like imagine doing if they did
I'm embarrassed.
Starship. That's okay. It's like Starship Troopers if it was done by SNL. That's so.
Well, Starship Troopers was funny enough as it is. That
Yeah.
should have been a comedy. Oh my gosh.
But not everybody dies at the end like in Starship Troopers. So
okay. In Starship Troopers, you're actually hoping everyone dies.
yes.
Please let them kill everyone. Let's see what else.
No, I'm sorry. You know what? I just realized that was a really, really, really bad analogy. It'd be more like if Star Trek was done by the folks at Saturday Night Live. That's a much better analogy, I think.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm gonna have to check that out. There you go.
Speaking of funny movies,
and Edwin confirmed your analogy. Galaxy Quest is more like Star Trek than Star Trek.
Yeah. And this just came to mind because I just watched this movie with my kids. My kids had never seen the Three Amigos, so I ripped the DVD and I edited out the scenes that were where the language wasn't appropriate for my kids. And basically, Galaxy Quest is like the futuristic sci-fi version of the Three Amigos, where you have the cast of this, futuristic space show, and then there's this group of aliens that have watched every episode, and they get into trouble, and so they go and kidnap all the people from the show and get them to save them. It's worth the watch.
I love it. All right, cool. All right, let's move. You brought up a TV show, so let's move on to TV shows. I have not been watching any TV. I like I said, I canceled Netflix and Amazon Prime is my go-to outlet, or Hulu. So what do you recommend?
Well, my wife and I have been enjoying Ripper Street, but they just decided with the last 2 episodes that we've watched, which is season 3, it's got 5 seasons on Netflix. They decided in one episode to make it about a pro-gay agenda, and then another episode to make it about the pro-abortion.
Yep.
But the ironic part is you have this character, Susan, who is she basically ran a brothel for the first 2 seasons. She is just a villainous wench, and she's the one who's being pro-abortion. So they make the absolute worst characters in the show in favor of all these depraved things that are commonplace in today's society.
Yep. That is about the first 3 seasons of Ripper Street are quite good. I really enjoyed it as well, and now that you mention it, I recall that it started to, about 4th season, it started to sort of drift into some social issues that weren't fun. Are you making another delivery, or what are you doing?
Yeah, but that was a quick one. So.
Oh, okay, cool. Another in the same sort of time period is that you might enjoy is Frankenstein Chronicles.
My wife and I have gone through that, and we really enjoyed that show, and they're supposed to be coming out with another season at some point.
I don't know that a day ever will. I really wish they would. I've been wishing they would since probably for 3 years. I don't think they ever will. And the irony is they kill Sean Bean. Sean Bean cannot survive in any television show or movie he's ever been in. It is just.
But he comes back.
But he does come back. That is true. I mean, that is funny that for some reason he can't live. They've got to kill him in everything they kill him in. And in this one, not only do they kill him, but they bring him back to life.
I think Sean Bean would make an excellent James Bond.
He would make a really cool old James Bond, like, kind of that grizzled old. I've been there, done that kind of. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If they would have taken him, when what was the guy before? I can't think of his name. Anyway.
Pierce before the
Pierce Brosnan.
Pierce Brosnan.
If they'd have gotten Sean Bean after Pierce Brosnan, I think I would have preferred him over Daniel Craig, but whatever.
Daniel Craig has been good. I was not crazy about Pierce Brosnan.
No, me neither. But Daniel Craig doesn't seem to show bring much emotion to the character.
That's true. Except when they smacked him in the balls that time.
I was just thinking of that.
That'll bring a tear to your eye.
That brought a tear to my eye just watching it.
Yeah. Dan mentions wants to remind us that Sanford and Son is available on YouTube. I have not seen Sanford and Son since I was you couldn't make that show anymore.
No.
A great show. Let's see. What else? Oh, if you have not seen it, watch Jack Ryan. Jack Ryan is fantastic. Both seasons. Don't watch the second one unless you watch the first one first. You will not regret it. I actually got my wife to sit down and watch all 2 seasons together, and she couldn't stop watching them. They were fantastic. And that's not usually her kind of thing. And she got hooked.
What I found surprising about it is that they showed the villainy of the communist system in Venezuela.
Yes.
But there was something very subtle there. They referred to the woman that was running against the dictator as a quote unquote liberal, and the dictator was a quote unquote conservative, as labeled in the show.
Yeah. Well, I guess she was liberal. I guess it depends on the context, but yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, are American viewers smart enough to pick that up? Probably not. But yeah, that's a good one. If you want to do a free trial of Disney Plus, The Mandalorian is actually fantastic. It's quite good. I've actually watched the entire series twice, mainly because my wife can't stop oohing and ahhing over Baby Yoda. But it is really quite good. It's well done. It's in keeping with the sort of the genre. They do a really good job of reproducing the look and the feel and reintroducing a lot of the same sort of locations and the same races and planets and star systems. It feels very much like it fits in the movie universe. So if you get a chance if you want to take advantage of a quick 7-day trial and just binge watch it and not pay Disney, do it. It's absolutely worth it.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You mentioned Jack Ryan, two other good Amazon Prime shows. One is The Man in the High Castle.
I've been thinking about that one, but I've never tried it.
Yeah, the whole premise of the show is, what would our world look like if Hitler had won? So it's a very good, very well done. They don't get overly political like they do with some other ones, where it goes beyond the point of subtlety. And I think part of the reason for that is because the Nazis are the bad guys. So
right, you can't really make them. It's really hard to make the Nazis into good guys in any movie.
Right. Although one thing I will say that if looking at at Japan, Imperial Japan was probably painted in a more favorable light than were the Nazis. So that one's all right. It's worth the watch. Carnival Row. It's only one season, and
I liked that.
You watched that one too.
Yeah.
See, and that's one of those. They didn't need to bring in all the sex and profanity, and it would have been a fantastic show.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's Hollywood these days. They have to throw in, sex and profanity, it seems.
Yeah. There was a bit of that felt forced, like they just had to. They could have toned that down quite a bit, and it still would have been a great show. And I hope they do bring it back for a second season. Orlando Bloom, and I don't remember the name of the lead actress.
Yeah,
it's quite good. I thought it was an interesting concept, combining the sort of fairy tale characters and old sort of Victorian England.
The thing that I found annoying is that they didn't need to make her bisexual.
That drove me crazy. Yeah, that did. Yes, you're right.
Like here, she had this this love story of how she had fallen in love with Orlando Bloom, and then you get to halfway through the season, like, oh yeah, she had this female lover at one point too. It's like,
yeah,
it added absolutely nothing to the story.
No. Yeah, there's another podcast that I enjoy that I've listened to some, and I have a hard time. Like I'll listen to it in bits and pieces. What is it called? But it does that same sort of thing. It's like the more you listen to it's kind of a sci-fi horror kind of thing. And it's if you like Lovecraftian kind of horror, it's kind of a psychological horror kind of thing. It's not really overt, in your face slasher kind of stuff. It actually, they do a really good job with it, and at times you'll sit there listening to it, and I will actually find myself like getting like goosebumps listening to some of it. But at times you'll listen and you'll be like, did they really have to make that character gay? Did they really? I mean, it's like every third character is like either bi or gay, and it's like you sort of get the sense that all of their friends are either gay or bisexual, and so they think the whole world is like that. And it's sort of, it's like, wait a minute. You start to focus on that in your mind, and you start to miss what's going on in the story, because you're like, why is that important? Why are we focusing on that part of the story instead of the story itself? And
right.
and that's the kind of thing like you're talking about with Carnival Row. I think that was an unnecessary detail that just detracted from all the rest of it. It could have been just fine without that little detail. Robert Laird, Sanford and Son always reminds me of my first ship. Was it a junk pile? Was it that? Did he? I have got to hear what this was like. What's your first ship like? It was a salvage ship. Maybe that's what it was.
Well, I'm getting out again.
Okay, we'll bring you back in when you hop back in the car.
Sounds good.
Moving on. What's the next set of? So I think we've exhausted the TV show thing, because there's just not a lot to watch. I mean, there's lots of stuff to stream, but if you can think of anything, share in the comments. Normally I'd be watching hockey 3 nights a week, because big hockey fan, but hockey's dead. I mean, there's just no way. I don't know whether it's going to come back. There's been all kinds of talk about maybe they might do this or they might do that. Or the last thing I heard was, who knows, they might play like games in empty arenas, like 3 games a night with like 4 teams in the same arena, and they just like rotate in and out. Who knows? I don't see that ever happening. My guess is the season's kaput, and I don't know. So I've been making up for it by playing Madden 20, not Madden 20, NHL 20, Madden 20. What am I talking about? NHL 20. So I like playing video games some. I've been a gamer since I was a kid. Not as hardcore as I used to be because I'm 50 now and I don't have the Twitch reflex stuff. I can't do any of that stuff anymore. So yeah. But so moving on to games, like, and it doesn't have to be video games. It could be just like family games. What are you guys doing? Maybe it's board games. Maybe it is video games. Maybe it's card games. What are you guys doing to pass the time at home with your families? Okay, wait a second. Before we get on to games, Robert is going to explain what his first ship was like. My first ship was an old Spruance class destroyer that was older than I was when I got there. I was the electrical officer, and we couldn't seem to go anywhere without having an electrical fire of some sort. Okay, that sounds like Sanford and Son. Okay, all right. Moving on to games. What kind of games are you guys playing at home, or are you playing it? I mean, family games, board games. We like to play some board games every now and then. Get everyone around the table, turn off the electronics, and play things like Scrabble or Uno or I found a couple of different things that just to sort of mix things up with my kids. Exploding kittens is always fun. What anything you guys play at the Bennett household?
Yes, we just about 2 weeks ago ordered Castle Panic off of Amazon.
Okay.
And it's a cooperative game where you defend your castle against the orcs and the ogres and the goblins and everything. What's that?
We're froze up there. Where you defend what?
Oh, you defend your castle against orcs and goblins and all sorts of crazy stuff. It is a heck of a lot of fun. And I ordered it primarily because my 7-year-old son, he doesn't do too well emotionally when he loses at things.
Oh, no.
So I decided to get this cooperative game, and we really have had a blast with it. As far as video games go, I'm still not too old to kick my kid's butt on Mario Kart, so there's always that.
Very good.
But I recently played some of the Wolfenstein games that have come out in the last 7 or 8 years. And those were really, really well done. I really enjoyed those.
I've been.
I was a big fan of the original Wolfenstein 3D, and then Return to Castle Wolfenstein, which came out in I think 2000 or so, 2001 maybe.
I used to be a big fan of the first person shooters. So Wolfenstein, Doom. Let's see what else. Modern Warfare, Battlefield,
Call of Duty.
Not as much anymore, especially in like multiplayer, because at 50 I can't keep up with stuff. It's not as easy to keep up anymore. And
I don't bother with the multiplayer games. I used to play World of Warcraft and yeah. And I just kind of gave it up because the game was developing at a rate far faster than I had time to play.
Yeah.
And so it's just, unless you can dedicate, 4 or 5 hours a day to play that game, what's the point? So it's
right.
So I stopped blowing $15 a month on that.
Yeah.
That's been at least 2 or 3 years since I played.
I stopped playing the computer games because I just couldn't financially keep up with the hardware requirements that kept changing. Because like every time there was a new game that would come out, the hardware requirements were beyond what my current computer would keep up with. So I was like constantly having to upgrade my computer. And at some point I was just like, nope, I'm out. I'm going to console and that's it. Not going to do this anymore. I can't keep up. Let's see. Edwin says, let's share some thoughts here. Not really. Family gamers in this household have gotten into Surviving Mars, which is somewhat like SimCity on Mars. I kind of like SimCity game, or the city building games. Build a colony, help it grow and thrive, deal with disasters. Those are cool. I like that. There's a SimCity. There's SimCity, and there's another one. There's one called Tropico, which is kind of neat.
Yeah.
I played a little bit of recently, not recently, a few months back, where you're kind of like a Fidel Castro kind of character, a little island, tropical island, and you have complete control of the island, and you make these political decisions, and you can either go capitalist or you can go like complete commie, and you make all these little tiny decisions about how the island develops, and it's kind of interesting. And whether or not you like side with the U.S. or whether you side with the Soviets, and then ultimately a bunch of people get pissed off at you and they overthrow you. And it doesn't matter what you do; somebody gets pissed, and you always get overthrown, and it doesn't matter.
So basically, it's a simulator for communism, and it still never works.
And it never works. So you don't have any choice. I've always been a big fan of the sort of open world sort of games that give you lots of choice, and especially the ones that give you consequences for the choices that you make. So I'm a big fan of games like Fallout.
Nice.
Fallout is one of my favorites of all time. So Fallout 4 is my one of my all-time favorites. Red Dead Redemption is a classic, an absolute one of my absolute favorites. Lately, I've been playing through Witcher, The Wild Hunt, which is a huge open world game. And since we're talking about pandemics, why not? Dying Light. If you're stuck on an island where everybody's got some dread disease and it turns them into zombies. So, and at night,
Sounds like fun.
yes, and at night, they're worse than you can imagine. They're worse than Democrats. So, it's like it's like being on an island with Bernie supporters in the dark.
Oh no!
Yes. So that's a good one. So those are
And
some.
they're
of
not testosteronally challenged soy boys either, I take it.
right. They are not playing. So those are fun. Not a big sports fan guy. I'm a sports game guy. I do like. I do play a little NHL 20. Like to because that's filling the void with no hockey. What else? We play some board games and card games and stuff with the kids. The girls like to do some karaoke downstairs, which has been interesting and fun to watch. Beyond that, not a whole lot. What else? I was trying to think. There was one other thing I was going to bring up. Let me grab a comment. Robert Laird laughing at the soy boy comment. Yep.
So you were bringing up some games that are on those are Xbox, right?
Those are Xbox, and some of them are probably on PlayStation. I
think
know.
all of those are PS4 as well.
Okay.
For the Nintendo console, either the Wii U or the Switch, Zelda Breath of the Wild is kind of an open world concept where it wasn't like some of the earlier Zelda games where everything is completely linear with how you play the game. This is an entirely open world where you can go straight to Ganon at the very, after you do the first opening sequence of the game. And even my kids have really enjoyed playing that. I haven't played it in a few weeks yet. When I was recovering from my hip surgery, I had splurged and spent I think all of $6 on the PlayStation Store to get the old Final Fantasy VII game. So I played some of that. I haven't played it in a while though, because the kids have been home and kids don't want to see Dad play some boring old game with bad graphics. So
back in my day, we played 64-bit. We played the
I don't know if my kids.
Oregon Trail.
Yeah, Oregon Trail
on a green screen.
You have died from coronavirus.
Exactly. Except that you won't.
Yeah.
A very slim chance. My son's got a Switch, and it's fun sometimes because if you can pry him out of his room, he and my daughter will play on the Switch, and they love the what is the thing where they I can't think of the name. The game where they're the battle game where they're all fighting all the like all the Nintendo characters. And it's a big battle. I can't think of
yeah, I don't know which.
Super Smash Brothers.
Super Smash Bros.
They love that game. And so my daughter is 9, now 10, and he's going to be 20, and they will sit and they will play for hours against each other on this little thing. Plug it into the little thing on in the little cradle and project it to the big television, and they'll sit and play for hours together. And so that's cool. So that's a fun. See,
I would be okay with that. My son wants me to play all the games with him that I can't stand playing.
Right. Yeah, there's that.
But then again, he's 7. So.
And you were talking about your son not liking losing.
Right.
It doesn't get any better at 10. Trust me.
Well, yeah. The games that he wants to play are the games that he can beat me at. So.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, the one that my wife and my daughter like to play is what is it called? It's a fighting game, and basically the best strategy is just to sort of spam one button, figure out what the fastest attack move is, and then you get your opponent like cornered and spam that one button as fast as you possibly can. And I can't counter it, and it's just like, okay, I'm just I'm gonna set my controller down now. And when you're done, when you finish beating me up, let me know, because there's nothing you can do. And my wife has like thumbs of fury. I can't do anything with it. So, and my daughter has inherited the exact same skill apparently. Okay, so let's move on to ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, which should be a store and not a government agency. So, what have we been doing related to these three topics? And I'm going to jump to, because as Kevin Wright mentioned early on, he'd been doing a lot of reloading lately and shooting, getting his 224 Valkyrie dialed in. That sounds good. I got out to the range for the first time over not this weekend, but last weekend. Finally got out and shot. Introduced the wife and my daughter to the concept of IDPA. Set up kind of a little mini IDPA stage, and we just I showed them how to shoot and move, and explained IDPA scoring and just really simple stuff, and broke out my Christmas present from not this past Christmas, but the Christmas before, which was a Heritage Rough Rider 22 revolver, which is a ton of fun to shoot.
Oh, fun.
And so shot it for the first time. I have not even shot the thing, and I've had it for over a year. And my daughter loves it. Now she wants it. She thinks it's hers now, and it's great fun. Got that from our former sponsor, G4G Guns. Check them out, by the way, at g4gguns.com. It's a really fun gun to shoot. Had a great time. Range time is good for the soul. I had not been really outside the house much beyond front porch, back porch, mailbox, grocery store. So it was nice to get out and be away from the house and do something. Cause like I said, even for an introvert, this kind of lockdown stuff was really starting to get to me. And so, we decided we were going to get out to the range last weekend, and it was so nice. We spent, about 5 hours out at the range and just had a great time. It was a beautiful day at Mission 160 in Whitewright, Texas. And it was nice to spend some time at the range and put some rounds down range. Anybody else had a chance to get out and do any shooting, or?
I plan on doing that. I found my copy of Safety On, Reamer's book, to show to my kids and have them read through that, and then spend some time in the backyard plinking. So unlike most of you, sorry guys, I can go my backyard. So, I just got home after driving 70 miles. So as soon as I turn off my car, it's going to disconnect the audio. So I'm going to have to sign off here. All
righty. Pastor, thank you for being with us, and God bless. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon.
Blessings to you too. One quick thing though. You said you taught your wife and daughter about IDPA scoring.
Yep.
Are you sure that's not going to change before the pandemic's over?
Yeah. Who knows? Who knows? I don't know whether I'll get to shoot a match this year.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing wrong with the scoring system before, but let's go ahead and change it anyway, right?
Might as well.
Well, I'm going to get going. God's blessings to all of you.
All right. Have a good night.
Thanks. You too.
All right. So just to sort of follow up last little bit, anything you guys are doing gun-wise? Like I said, we're talking ATF at this point. Like I said, it ought to be a store and not a government agency. So tonight, what are we doing tonight? We are little Evan Williams in a little something of our own concoction here. Like I said, went out to the range, finally got out to the range last weekend. I have no idea what different states have different things going on. And I've seen videos of some states that actually have matches going on. Around here, it's simply not possible because of the governor's orders. We can't have any matches because of the social distancing stuff. So most of our local matches have been canceled, and a lot of the sanctioned matches have been postponed. We're still sort of waiting to see what's going to happen with the state match, the Texas state match, which is scheduled for Memorial Day weekend. I'm planning on shooting that match. I just have no idea whether I'm going to be prepared for it. Doesn't matter. I'll shoot it. But like I said, first time I'd been out to the range for probably all year. And it was good. It was nice to get out. I hope you've gotten a chance to do that, because being indoors, and if you've probably heard from the press conferences with the coronavirus press conferences this week, talk about how sunlight and heat are good in terms of how they affect the coronavirus. Getting outside is absolutely a good idea. If you can get outside, it's good for you in terms of your mental health. Trust me, I know, because I was actually feeling a little down because typically being inside is not a big deal for me. This is what I do all the time. I'm an introvert. I work from home all the time. Being at home is not a big deal, but knowing that I can't get out was finally starting to get to me. And so being able to get out to the range, indoor ranges obviously are closed. Outdoor ranges, a little different thing. Maybe the public, I'm not sure what the situation is with public ranges. I'm a member of a private range. And as long as you are in a small group, all family members, or if you're by yourself, obviously, you can go and there's no concern. You don't have to go, and you don't have to go out there with a mask on either. So that was nice. It was a beautiful day. We got out there and spent, like I said, over 4 hours, went and grabbed a little bite to eat afterwards. It was just absolutely what the doctor called for. So if you're feeling cooped up and you can get out, for whether it's going to the range or something else, get out there and do it. And I'm not just talking about going out in your yard. Find a way to get away and break the routine, so that the weight of just sitting around at home is not weighing down on you. Because even for those of us who sitting at home or working from home, being at home all the time is just natural and normal. The idea that you can't get out and go anywhere is kind of, even for me, it was bad. And I had a really bad week last week. So I finally, my wife was like, yeah, let's go to the range. And I probably, I had gotten to the point where, and I think the longer this goes on, the harder this is going to be on a lot of people. And we've already seen some numbers. We've already seen some sort of anecdotes about people who are having problems with this in terms of mental health. The effect that this is having on people's mental health. And I will tell you from personal experience that it's had an effect on me. I've had a hard time trying to find a motivation to get out and do much of anything. I have had opportunities to get out and go, and I could have gone to the range many times, but I've found excuses not to. And finally, I made the smart thing that I did was to say, hey, wife, why don't we go to the range? That'd be fun. And so I had an accountability partner. I had somebody who would tell me, are we going to the range today? Are we going to the range? Let's go to the range. And I mentioned it to my daughter, and my daughter was like, hey, Dad, we're going to the range, right? Let's go to the range. So I had somebody who was pushing me to go and get out and do something. So I got out and I went to the range, and it was such a good time, and I felt so much better afterwards. So if you have the opportunity to do that, I would encourage you to get out and do it. Whether it's going to the range or going for a walk or going and for a bike ride or a horseback ride or whatever, get out of the house and just get away and enjoy being outside for a little while, because being cooped up at home is not good for your mental health. It just isn't. If you have an opportunity to get out, do it. Take advantage of it. Kevin says, we've been shooting a lot of 22 long rifle too. We bought our daughter a Smith & Wesson M&P 1522 for her birthday. That is such a fun gun. Wife and I have 1022s, which is another tremendous, love that gun. Having a lot of fun. Yes, those are great choices. There's nothing like plinking with a 22. It's just so much fun, and when the ammo is inexpensive, the lack of recoil, the lack of noise makes it so easy for new shooters and for young shooters to introduce them to the shooting sports and to introduce them to shooting in general, and they can feel confident with it because it's easy to shoot well. And it's fun for us, for those of us who are experienced shooters. It's so much fun to shoot. I had forgotten how much fun it was to shoot 22. I got out there and I loaded up that 22, that Heritage Rough Rider, and I shot the first few rounds. I was like, whoa, this is fun. It's like it's like, forgive me for the term, but it was like it was like bunny farts. And I told my daughter this when she was kind of scared at first. She was like, "It's going to be loud. It's going to recoil a lot." And I was like, "No, it's not. It's like bunny farts." It was so much fun. 22 is a great. I mean, if you shoot nothing else, take a whole box, just a pile of 22 with you to the range and shoot nothing but, you're going to have a fun time. It is absolutely that much fun. Let's see what's going on with Edwin. Edwin says, nothing related to guns this weekend, all gardening and food preservation, canning, dehydrating, making lactose-free yogurt for my wife, hoping for some range time 2 weekends from now. Hope you do get to do that, Edwin, because that is, and it doesn't, if it's not range time, just getting outside in the, just getting some fresh air, just getting out and not sitting inside all the time is important, because I have a bad tendency of just saying, you know what, I'll just sit on the couch, or, I'll do some more work at my desk. Today, I did a little work and then I went outside. I decided, you know what, I'm going to get some sun. I actually got burned. I got some sunburn. I sat down. I took myself like I said, I took my book. I took my my copy of Metro 2034, read a couple of chapters, fired up my which one is this? This is my Big Ben Nautilus, and we are talking ATF. I guess this gets us to the T of the ATF, and fired up some Sutliff aromatic English in my Big Ben Nautilus pipe, and kicked back out in the sun and read for 3 or 4 hours. And of course, I got sunburned, but okay. I haven't been out in the sun much, so that was good. It was nice. It was nice to get out of the house and to relax and not be in front of a computer all day. That was nice. So I hope you find a way to get out, whether it's gardening, whether it's riding a bike or riding a horse or walking or jogging or shooting. Get out of the house and do something, so that you don't feel so cooped up, because even, like I said, even for somebody like me, it starts to get to you. The longer that you feel cooped up, the longer that you stay inside, it wears on you. So any other ideas for outdoor activities? My daughter is playing volleyball. So while I was sitting out there baking myself in the sun and smoking a pipe and reading a book, my daughter and my wife were hitting the volleyball around in the yard and trying not to knock it over the fence into the neighbor's yard and stir up the dog. We're surrounded by dogs. Like 3 of the houses around us have dogs, and so you hit the volleyball over the fence and the dog goes crazy and the volleyball gets chewed up into 1,000 pieces. So that's kind of the game. Will the volleyball survive? Let's see. Was there anything else? By the way, tomorrow's episode is Coronapalooza Part 3. We're talking about the coronavirus. We're talking about the government's responses to the coronavirus. We went back in 2012. Cheers. We went back in episode 212 and 213. We looked at the government's responses at all levels to the virus, to the outbreak, and we kind of gave our thoughts on whether or not those different policies and different ideas were any good. How we should judge them based on the second great commandment. Were they in keeping with the need with the idea of loving the neighbor and loving our citizens, taking care of the citizen? And a lot changed in the 5 weeks since we recorded those episodes. So we decided for this episode, for tomorrow's episode, that we would revisit some of those topics and see if our opinions have changed and how those policies have morphed, because some of them are now on steroids. So that's going to be a good show. Hope you enjoy it. For those of you who are members of the Gun Club, you're going to get a full-length episode, by the way. And that full-length episode will be available, I think, on Monday. So there's about 20 extra minutes the show's going to be about 45 minutes. There should be about 20 extra minutes that will be available to you on Monday. Then next week for episode 218 is going to be our typical variety show with all the members of the cast, and those and then 219, which we've already recorded, by the way, and thank you to those of you who sent in questions. 219 is going to be a Q&A session with the pastor, and that was a lot of fun. We've already recorded it. It's going to be out in 2 weeks, and that was a great show. So stay tuned for that. Look for that in a couple of weeks. Quick couple of comments before we wrap things up here. Kevin, go fishing. We went the last 3 Sundays. Funny you should mention that, Kevin. There's a big pond right behind at the range where I'm a member at Mission 160 here in Whitewright, Texas. I'm not sure whether it's designed. I think it's just it collected all the water and it's just there. I don't know why there's a pond back there. But my daughter, as soon as she saw it, she's like, "We should go fishing." Okay. I haven't been fishing since I was like 10, but okay. So we may go fishing. Who knows? My daughter's been on me to go fishing. So we'll see. That might happen. Take the family camping. That is a great idea. Aaron Israel, our former contributor on the show, posted some pictures. He went out and took his daughter camping over the weekend. I think last weekend. Great idea. Get out. If the state parks are open here in Texas, they just opened, I think, last weekend, depending on what's going on in your state. Get out there, and maybe you got private land that's available. Get out and camp. Get out and fish. Get out and go shooting. Get out and go hiking. Get to the range. Whatever you do, find a way to get out and don't just sit around and dwell on the fact that you're stuck, because there are still some opportunities. And Mia mentioned them in the show last weekend in episode, I'm losing track of the episodes, 216. In episode 216, she talked about there's still opportunities to get out and go hunting, believe it or not, in certain states. So depending on where you are, there may still be an opportunity on public land, or even on, if there may be, you may have some access to private land to get out and go hunting. So find a way. Don't just sit at home and let this get to you, because, like I said, even for an introvert like me that thrives in this kind of environment where you sit at home and you work from home all the time, it got to me. So get out, have a good time, enjoy time with your family, find a way to enjoy the outdoors. Thank you all for being here tonight, and I appreciate you taking the time. Thank you all for the comments. God bless you all, and thank you for your support for the show. I really do appreciate it. Thank you to the pastor for taking the time as he was out on making his rounds, dropping off DVDs of his services to his parishioners, for taking the time to join us tonight. We will do another one of these next month, and who knows what we'll talk about. Hopefully we're not talking about this. Hopefully when we do another one of these, we're tipping a glass and we're talking and we're celebrating the fact that life is back to normal. I hope that's the case. God bless everybody. Thank you all, and we'll see you next time. Be sure to tune in tomorrow night for episode number 217 of Armed Lutheran Radio. keep shooting, keep praying. We'll talk to you next time.
For show notes, be sure to visit our website at www.armedlutheran.us. Check out the Facebook page, The Armed Lutheran, or join our Facebook group, Fans of Armed Lutheran Radio. If you like what you hear, please leave us a comment on our feedback page at armedlutheran.us/feedback or a review on iTunes and let us know what you think. Thank you for listening to Armed Lutheran Radio.